Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Before we start, I do have a lot of questions that I would like to ask Director Man, but before we start, I would like to show you the trailer of Keep Rolling, just in case you haven't seen it yet, so that you can have a taste of the film. Just bear with me for a second.
女好成功咯，
好新嘅一個感覺咧。
只由一個香港嘅女導演咧，唔單止由女性嘅角度去講故仔，佢仲可以拍出另類嘅風格。
啲嘢你有 identification， 你見到畫面嘅，你有感覺嘅。阿 Ann， 你唔好專拍埋晒啲咁嘢啦。
但係我覺得佢有意識講緊我哋呢個年代需要提起嘅問題。
隨着你的年齡，你會有不同的角度重新來看你身邊這個世界。
我覺得呢度好多故仔嘅，覺得佢好 attractive 嘅。我好 committed to 呢個地方，我想做一啲嘢。
So here we are. That's the trailer of the film. So my first question for Director Man is that, when did you start working with An Hui? When was the first film that you were working with her?
所以我可以講廣東話係咪？定係我要講英文？
廣東話都得，英文可唔可以幫你翻譯？
我試下講英文，你講唔到先講。
Okay.
When I first met Anne, actually is in my university stage. Is back to about year 2000. I think there was one time she came to our college and to be the lecturer of a film study lecture, and actually I did ask her. I tell her that I really want to get into the industry, and if you can give me a chance, to just call me. But then definitely she didn't call me back. And then afterward, I get into the industry in about film industry in about 1993, I think. Then after 10 years later, I finally met Anne, director Anne, in the movie Julie Rhapsody. It's in about 2002. That is the first time I met her. No, that is the first time I actually working with her.
So were you the art director for July Rhapsody?
Yeah, and costume designer too.
And costume designer. What was it like? Your first experience working with An Hui, how did you feel?
Well, it's just it's very impressive. It's very impressive because it was very nervous for me to work with such a big director like Anne, and but I remember the first experience that I worked with her is the way that she 即佢 sorry 我講廣東話都係佢睇電影嗰種即係個睇法係令到我好 inspiring 嘅，因為講緊個戲個 art direction 個方向咧，佢就係同我講咗一個古仔，佢就話呢個戲咧，其實我係好想拍木棉樹嘅英文咧叫做Flame of the Forest。
So I'm going to translate now. So when the first time when director Man was working with An Hui, he was very impressed by her specific attitude towards film, especially towards what she sees in art direction. And she was talking about a story, a film called Flame of the Forest at that time.
點解叫木棉樹咧？因為原來木棉樹咧係好大棵綠色嘅樹，然之後佢啲花咧係火紅色嘅花。咁所以原來佢想嗰個戲嘅氣氛咧就係好多好舒服嘅綠色，但係喺個綠色裏邊咧有啲好刺激嘅紅色喺個戲入邊會出現。咁就正就係張學友喺個戲裏邊就代表咗嗰種好溫文爾雅嘅綠色，而林嘉欣咧就係嗰種好刺激嘅紅色。
So actually An Hui was using a metaphor, a particular tree to explain what she wanted in art direction. So she wanted to film to have a specific feeling that is in a contrast between green and red, because the green color gives you a very comfortable feeling, very soothing feeling. But at the same time, you have the red color and feeling that is a bit more exciting, a bit more exciting and sexy in a way, and that is the way how the protagonists, the male and the female characters, how they were portrayed in the film. So I think director Man was very impressed by the very precise and particular expectation that Anne wanted in her film. So then afterwards, after July Rhapsody, you've been working with Anne for many other films. And did you continue to be inspired by Anne?
我非常之欣賞 Anne 對電影嗰種投入，同埋佢每一次拍之前咧，佢都會做好多 research 嘅，同埋佢係比較少，我見到少導演裏邊咧，佢係會劃分鏡頭，即係每一場戲咧。佢都每一場戲每一日嘅拍攝咧，佢都會分好晒，即係喺邊個 angle 用啲咩鏡頭或者點樣拍法，用幾多部機，佢會畫好晒嘅。即係譬如黃金時代，我哋拍咗5個幾月啦。黃金時代嗰沓分鏡咧係起碼成寸厚嘅，即係好厚嘅一沓分鏡頭。咁我好少見到導演會係咁樣做。
So in director Man's view, what really touches him or what he really admires about An Hui is that she's a very devoted director. Every time when she makes a film, she would do a lot of research before the shoot. But that makes sense because Anne came from a literature background. She studied comparative literature at Hong Kong U. So she has that kind of scholarly approach to research and to her film. And for example, in Golden Era, one of the films that director Man also worked with director An Hui together, the shooting altogether was 5 months long. And a habit that Anne had is that she really wanted to study different angles of the camera work. So for that particular film, she probably prepared like that thick of materials just in terms of how the camera work, different angles and so on. So Anne is a very devoted director
hardworking.
And hardworking. And smokes a lot. And she smokes a lot, as you will see in the film. So how did this idea then come about then for you to make a documentary about An Hui? Because it's such a out of the blue thing.
因為第一我好欣賞佢導演嘅拍戲嘅態度啦，同埋好欣賞佢嘅作品啦。咁同埋見到佢每日喺片場嗰種投入咧，我覺得好值得俾多啲年輕嘅 香港觀眾同埋新入行嘅電影人知道香港有一位咁嘅導演，因為原來我同好多年輕朋友講開，佢哋其實對許導演都唔認識嘅，唔單止佢嘅戲啦，即係包括佢嘅為人都唔係好認識。咁我好想覺得佢好值得俾更加多人知道，咁就覺得紀錄片係一個好適合嘅 media。咁然之後同我同事傾開咧，就覺得香港好少電影人嘅紀錄片啊。咁因為喺大中華地區咧，譬如台灣同埋大陸咧，都有好多電影人嘅紀錄片，咁但係唯獨是香港好少。咁喺我同事鼓勵之下咧，我哋就決定，不如我哋去做一個許導演嘅紀錄片，等更加多人可以知道佢嘅故仔。
So the inspiration was actually coming from the admiration, because director Man was thinking, Anne Hui, she's such a wonderful and prestigious, remarkable Hong Kong director, but it seems like not many people are aware of her. In particular, in Hong Kong, a lot of the younger generation of the filmmakers, when director Man is speaking to them, it seems like they don't know, they're not aware of her at all. So he feels like he has to do something to tell the story, to show this wonderful female director to the Hong Kong film industry and to the next generation of filmmakers, to let them know about her work, and also her work attitude, and also her talent. And that's why documentary came as the appropriate medium to do that. And of course, then director Man was talking to different colleagues, and they all encouraged him to do that. So it's actually quite rare for Hong Kong to have a documentary about its own director. It's not a very common thing to do. I think you will see more in Taiwan and also in mainland China, having documentaries about different directors, but certainly not Hong Kong. So maybe there's the gap there. The stories about Hong Kong directors need to be told more, maybe in a documentary form. So my next question is, I'll finish my question so that I can open to the floor. I'm sure the audience would like to ask you many questions too. How did you produce such a comfortable feeling of the documentary that, when you watch it, you feel like you know this person almost, you feel like you know An Hui. What was your interview skill and technique to create that very comfortable atmosphere?
其實開始嘅時候，我自己都唔知道嘅，即係我都冇諗得好清楚，但係即係總之我覺得好想做，就做咗先算啦。咁但係咧，我有啲嘢我好清楚嘅，即係我唔係，我知道自己唔係拍緊一個許導演拍戲嘅時候一個電影嘅 making of。我係想透過呢個紀錄片去講許導演自己嘅故仔。咁同埋咧，我比較係從一個朋友嘅身份去 explore 即係佢身邊發生嘅事，而唔係好似好多紀錄片咁係一個導演去拍另一個導演。我比較係從一個朋友去拍一個導演。咁所以好多時候即係好多都係朋友之間嘅傾談啊，朋友之間傾偈啊。咁譬如好多喺佢屋企嗰啲訪問咧，咁我自己就好 insist 咧，我唔想有好大隊 crew 去佢屋企嘅，即係我唔想有啲佢唔認識嘅攝影師啦，或者燈光師或者收音師，即係佢對住一啲佢唔認識嘅人講佢啲好 intimate 嘅嘢。咁我頭先提啦，因為呢個紀錄片我主要係同幾個都係阿 Ann 認識嘅同事一齊去做嘅。咁我哋係一個3人創作小組，我同埋另外2個女仔。咁算係一個 mini crew。咁譬如去佢屋企咧，我哋都係一個 mini crew， 我哋3個人負責晒所有嘢，問問題、攝影、打燈、收音，乜嘢都有我哋3個人。咁係好辛苦，但係就因為呢3個人都係同阿 Ann 好熟嘅，變咗咁佢好似係同朋友傾緊偈咁。rather than 係對住一隊佢唔認識嘅 crew 去講，佢會答問題。咁所以可能因為咁樣，某程度上即係喺個傾談上面就比較 close 一啲。
So because how the project was started was quite personal already. It wasn't like a professional documentary, like one director trying to make another a film about another director. It wasn't like that. It was more like a casual way of recording chats between friends and so on. Well, as you know, that this is a debut work by director Man. So before, he was working quite closely with Anne as a art director, production designer, and costume designer. So so already there is a quite close connection there. But I guess maybe because no one had any expectation, and then the crew, specifically the filming crew that director Man was saying, was quite small. So in the film, you have some scenes where you have interviews with Anne at her home. So they only have 3 people in the crew, just director Man and also 2 other girls. But all the people Anne Hui knows already, so she will feel quite comfortable to talk about something a bit more intimate and personal. And you'll definitely see in the film, she has revealed several personal views and also confessions about her life. So, but that's the reason why, because the crew was very small, and then also this was not from the beginning designed as a professional documentary anyway, which is a very friendly project to do. So my last question before I open it to the floor is that, how did you manage to get all these directors to make a comment or to be your interviewees in the film, like Choi Hak, Fu Chan, Ho Xiaoxian, Lim Ho, Josephine? And also actresses? How did you manage to get them? And what did they think when you told them about this project about An Hui?
當然呢個係一個好漫長嘅過程啦，因為嗰個拍攝時間係經歷咗3年幾，咁所以即係中間我有比較多嘅時間去安排去訪問呢啲大名鼎鼎嘅導演，同埋即係去求去蕭芳芳啊，或者係即係我比較多時間去做呢啲嘢。咁但係好彩，即係我自己因為拍戲嘅關係咧，即係有一啲好多人我可能都係識嘅，譬如張艾嘉啊，譬如徐克啊咁然之後都可以透過啲朋友可以約到佢哋一齊做訪問。咁然之後因為其實中間有一年咧，就許導演去台灣金馬獎做評審主席，咁我就跟埋佢去，咁所以去到台灣咧，我就順便又約埋一啲同佢合作過認識嘅人。咁因為佢哋都係即係喺華語影壇裏邊，其實同一齊成長嘅，同埋都係非常重要嘅電影人。咁我所以覺得佢哋嘅訪談喺呢個紀錄片裏邊係相當有意義。
So it actually took quite a long time and a long process to get all these amazing interviewees and famous directors to be in the documentary. The whole process for making this documentary took 3 years. So that gave director Man some time to approach different people to join in this project. And of course, some of them he had to ask quite kindly and to ask them for help and to support. Some of them he already knew because he has been in the industry for quite a long time now, since the 1990s. And then when An Hui went to become the head of juror at the Golden Horse Awards in Taiwan, so director Man also traveled with her together, which gave him an opportunity to contact some of the Taiwanese directors, such as Ho Xiaoxian, to be interviewed. In director Man's view, because all these well-known, renowned directors, they all grew up in the same era as An Hui. They all, working together side by side, and then in almost in the same generation. So of course their views on An Hui and on her career are very important for the documentary. Thank you. So I'm going to stop now, even though I have so many more questions, but I want to invite some of our audience to join in as well. Whether you have seen the film or you haven't seen the film, please feel free to unmute yourself, and if you feel comfortable to ask any question you have, I can translate if needed, or typing in the chat so that I can read it out for you. Let's see if we have any audience. Otherwise, I will just keep asking questions. Do I have any? Oh yeah, there's someone raised their hand. David.
Yeah, I haven't seen the film yet, I'm afraid, but I'm just wondering which platform can we watch it? Sounds fascinating. So where might we be able to catch it?
Well, for those who don't know David, David is another fellow Hong Konger, very famous actor in the UK.
Wow.
To playing the Asian and Chinese role for many years on BBC and so on and so forth. And also now recently is more active in theatre, I think. So David, is the film still playing on Chinese cinema season as part of the Hong Kong Reimagined program. So you can go on www.chinese.uk。
我想喺度鼓勵下啲觀眾咧，因為咧好多觀眾開頭驚入場睇紀錄片咧會覺得好悶咁啊。咁但係呢個紀錄片咧，佢喺香港電影節同埋喺台灣金馬獎放嘅時候咧，嗰啲電影節嗰啲 staff 話翻俾我聽咧，佢喺電影節放嘅時候，啲觀眾啲反應、啲笑聲咧係多過睇喜劇。
So this is a recommendation, encouragement from director Man. Say sometimes audience might get put off by documentary, thinking that it's boring, that is dry, it might not be entertaining. But this is not the case at all, because when the film was showing in Hong Kong and in Taiwan, the reaction from the audience, they all laughed, they all found it very funny, and they all had a good time laughing. And the reaction of laughing that you get from watching this documentary is more than that you get from a comedy. And it's because An Hui herself, she's very funny. She's like a kid, almost, I think.
I would say she's lovely.
She's lovely, yes. And she's also very opinionated, very strong, opinionated too. So we have some questions from Lek Hang, Dr. Choi Lek Hang. So he's seen the film in Hong Kong. He's joining us from Hong Kong. He said, I'm curious what Anne herself thinks about your idea of doing a documentary about her. So 佢應該話點樣諗㗎？一開始
佢最初我有呢個 idea， 咁我就問佢啦，我話導演你我可唔可以拍一個你嘅紀錄片咁？咁佢好快就覆我，咁佢就如果你唔驚冇人睇咧，你咪拍咯咁。咁但係因為到拍完即係到依家上映咧，其實我知道阿 Ann 都係最近先睇翻，即係最近先睇嘅。因為我哋最初喺電影節 screening 咧，佢唔敢睇嘅，佢好怕喺大銀幕度見到自己。咁但係我哋最初拍完剪完個 rough cut 嘅時候，又俾佢睇過嘅。咁佢覺得估唔到喺大銀幕睇到自己，同埋即係佢覺得唔係好尷尬，佢覺得 OK。咁同埋佢覺得我哋用好多佢啲電影片段嚟串連佢嘅成長同埋佢古仔咧，佢覺得都用得幾好。同埋最緊要佢 make sure 喺佢咁長嘅訪談裏邊咧，佢冇得罪人。
Okay, that's interesting.
即係冇講到一啲嘢係原來得罪人嚟嘅。
So the answer was that when Lim Chung, when he first contacted Anne saying that I would like to make a documentary about you, she was actually quite relaxed about it, and then it was quite funny. She said, as long as you're not afraid that the film is not going to be watched by many people, and it's only quite recently that Anne herself has watched the film, the documentary, and she actually thinks it's okay. And what she likes the best is that how the film is being edited and having sessions combining movie scenes by her films, and also connected the narrative of her personal life and journey and career. So she quite likes that, and she actually thinks it's not too bad to see herself on a big screen. But at the beginning, she was quite conscious about seeing herself on this big screen, I guess, being behind the camera for so many years. I think, and then also as long as she was not saying anything that will that is not appropriate or make other directors or filmmakers angry, then that's okay. So she was actually quite welcoming. So we have another question from Jia Zhou. She said, "Hi, great to hear you speak, Director Man. At what point in your career did you decide you'll make a documentary about An Hui, and why? Was there a defining moment or was it a slow process? Thanks." So I think we covered the first question already, but the idea coming about, did it take a long time to?
唔係因為我唔係想，我唔係因為想做導演，然之後不如拍 documentary，然之後不如去拍 N。我純粹係因為頭先講咗，我好想講佢嘅故事，咁所以我都冇話係我開始都做導演，我以後就繼續做導演，我就唔做 art director，即係我冇呢個打算，即係我純粹係因為想將佢嘅故事話俾人聽，咁所以就拍啦咁。
So the answer was that it's not because that not because he wants to become a director as such as a profession. He will continue to do his job in art direction and production design, but it's just because he feels like An Hui is such a remarkable person and more people deserve to know about her work and her story and her life and her personality, and that's why the documentary came about. So
而我又係即係因為拍戲嘅時候同佢一齊生活得咁距離咁近，即係我去做呢件事好似喺某程度上好大方便，即係比其他人更加有着數咗咁。
And also because Director Man has been working with An Hui for many years now, so he's in a very convenient position to make this happen. He's probably one of the best position to make that happen, to be able to do that. So David is asking again, has it been shown in other festivals around the world? Yes, it has. It has showed in the Singapore International Film Festival. 我可以記得晒啲名。Osaka Asian Film Festival, and also in Taiwan as one of the film festival in Taiwan as well. And then in June, it's going to be at the International Film Festival in Rotterdam, in Holland.
仲有夏威夷、新加坡、Chicago 都有。
Chicago, and also Hawaii.
And Singapore.
Yes, and Taipei. So we have a question from Gary, I think. Gary Bettison, who is a scholar in the UK for Hong Kong cinema. Actually, he goes to Hong Kong Film Festival every year, apart from last year, of course, but he's been going every year and goes to film out for every year for a long time now. Gary, can we see your face?
Oh, hang on, let me try.
Gary is probably the one person that I know that loves Hong Kong cinema so much that
So I'm trying to find the I'm not sure I can show my video, but oh, here we go. Do you see me now?
Hello.
Hi. Thank you, He, for organizing this Q&A. It's really been illuminating. And thank you, Director Man, for being here. I really loved your film.
You saw it?
I saw it, yeah. I thought it was really, really informative. I learned a great deal about the director, An Hui. Thought it was moving and funny and charming. So really great portrait. I wondered if you could tell us a bit more about An Hui's working methods. Does she use storyboards? Is she hands-on in the editing process? So I think that she gets a lot of attention for being a kind of literary director and concerned with social messages and social issues. But the visual side of her films doesn't really get acknowledged very much. And you're obviously very involved in the visual narration of her films. And so I wondered if you could talk about how interested and attentive she is to the visual dimension of her films, because it always seems to me very sophisticated, but not really appreciated by the critics. And also maybe one last thing, if I may, just if you see any similarities between Anh Hui's working methods and your own. Are there certain things you have in common? Thank you again. Thank you.
Sorry, my English is not good. I say in Cantonese.
Yeah, thanks.
我覺得 Anne 係有佢自己獨特嘅 art direction 嘅睇法嘅。佢成日都係想做啲嘢同第啲人唔同，即係譬如天水圍的日與夜咁。好多人都覺得好似冇乜 style 咁，但係我覺得佢嗰個盡量去接近生活，好寫實，就係佢自己一個好 promising 嘅 style。咁我正係呢樣嘢，我覺得佢同其他導演係非常之唔同。
So, yes, I think in quotes, he thinks, I always struggle to translate. Yes, Anne has a very particular attention towards art direction and visual style, you're right. Although not many people notice that. And for example, the film, 其實天水圍的日與夜個英文係
英文明。
Let me just.
天水圍的日與夜英文叫咩啊
So way we are. So for example, in the way we are, even it's a story. It's a film and story about very ordinary people and their ordinary life. But that in particular is her style because you really want to get closer to the reality. So that is in itself is a very particular preference in that direction.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you again for the film too. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
So do we have any more? We don't have any more questions. Okay, one more from David. Does Anne or you have any interest in developing a film in the UK?
我唔可以幫 Anne 答嘅喎。
He can't answer on behalf of Anh Hui.
我唔知啊，我梗係有興趣啦，但係即係譬如頭先講話，依家因為個疫情關係，好多嘢都令到大家好似個距離遠咗好多咁可能都要等個疫情稍為穩定之後，先可以好多嘢再 develop 落去。
Of course, he's interested in developing a film in the UK, but at the moment it's quite difficult because of the pandemic. It seems like all the distance between people is getting further. But when things resume back to normal, definitely he's interested in exploring opportunity. So, okay, Angie, she has a question. What is the most difficult part in making this film?
我諗係一個好漫長嘅過程去同 Anne 傾偈，因為如果好多，尤其是好多記者話翻俾我聽咧，佢哋以前訪問過 Anne 咧，覺得好難問佢問題嘅，因為所有問題咧問完佢都係可能答一句起兩句止就 end of the question， 即係好難講得好深入嘅。咁我諗真係需要花好長時間，同埋即係慢慢咁去。即係有一個營造一個好即係好容易傾偈嘅氣氛，咁所以即係等佢可以講到好多心裏邊嘅説話出嚟。
So the most difficult part is actually to get Anne to talk about things that are a bit more personal and things that she doesn't normally reveal in interviews. Some of you might know or might not know, Anh Hui doesn't do many interviews. Actually, it's not in her habit to do that. She really focuses on filmmaking and that's it. So a lot of the journalists actually struggle to get answers from Anne. When they ask her questions in interviews for reports and coverages, they normally just get one or two sentences. So the most difficult part, I guess, from director Man's point of view, is to really create a comfortable process and experience for Anne, for her to be relaxed, and so that she can start talk about something more personal about her life and her career.
上邊有個觀眾喺度揮手。
Is it David? Do you have any questions again?
No, it's Su.
Okay.
Yes, it's me. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Olaf Möller. I'm from the International Film Festival Rotterdam. I'm
it's you.
actually the guy who selected your films. You are running in my section, so it's
Thank
nice
you.
to meet you. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you.
I didn't see your name. Please.
Yeah, well,
please.
I'm hiding behind my Japanese handle. So, so it's. I do have actually also a question with regards to access to film materials. How complicated or easy was it? Because, I mean, Anhui worked for quite a lot of companies. Then there is the gigantic television oeuvre of her, which I guess might also be tricky to access at times. So how much was the film shaped by, let's say, necessities, things you could get or could not get?
You mean the copyright from the
Yes,
different
for example,
companies? Yeah.
or actually just really physical access, because I remember some of the films are really difficult to find.
Yeah. You're right. We spent quite a long journey to get all these rights to use the footages. But I think because Anne is just so nice. Some of the film owner heard that it's about documentary about Anne, and they really want to give me a hand. And they just you just tell me what you want. But as you said, there is some films it's just very difficult. For example, just hold on. 女人40係咩話？For example, Summer Slow. Summer Slow, the rights goes to Warner Brothers. And it's just very difficult to communicate with them because you can't phone them, you can't message them, you can only email them, and it's a long journey in between the back and forth of the contract and communication. But finally, I just get a deal with them. So, yeah. So it's a big process to go through all this for the copyrights.
Well, we are actually facing that now in Rotterdam as well, because we are trying to screen with your film Anhui's own documentary as time goes by, and my God, that's work. To get that one, my God. But yes.
Did you try both people?
The idea, my idea was to have something, let's say, also autobiographical. So I was basically thinking about Time Goes By, Song of the Exile, one of these two, so to speak. And then I thought, okay, documentary versus documentary side by side with documentary. And that's why we went with that one. Not expecting, but it would be so difficult, but it's okay. We will manage.
So that's great. I didn't notice your name, but you must be Olaf Müller.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, from Rotterdam International Film Festival, who selected Keep Rolling for your program. So thank you for joining us as well. So if I may, I'm going to ask you a question. Why did you select this film for your festival?
Jesus. Do you want, this gets autobiographical in the sense of, I often tell people that I grew up with the Hong Kong New Wave. And actually a lot of people in Germany of my age did that. For us, people like Anhui, Choi Hawk, Alex Chung are really important influences for our way of thinking of what cinema is. There are very few things, I think a lot of my friends, that are as important as watching the early films of people like Anhui and Choi Hawk. This is why we became who we are. These films gave us a lot of our moral compass, as well as our idea of what is cinema and what can cinema do. And Anhui, as an extraordinary socially committed director, as well as somebody who was constantly trying out something new with almost every film, was basically almost a match made in heaven for my personal obsessions, because I'm really intrigued by people who consider cinema as an adventure, as a constant experiment. And there are very few directors who do that so greatly as she does. So it's, when I heard that there is a documentary on An Hui, it was like, no contest, this needs to be seen. The world needs this. I mean, we actually, if it hadn't been for COVID, we would have actually done something much bigger around it. If we would have had, let's say, more leverage and could have moved more easily. Because not only me, but actually also our director, Vanya Kaludacic, she's completely obsessed with An Hui. And she's definitely one of our heroes. So.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
But would you say Hong Kong New Wave is more influential in Germany than the French New Wave?
But that's a different generation. There's 20 years in between.
I see, yeah. But I didn't know about that. I didn't know Hong Kong New Wave was such a big thing in Germany.
Well, basically, I mean, it was on television. We saw a few films in cinema, and indeed, basically, the Berlin Film Festival helped a lot. There were quite a lot of films from the Hong Kong New Wave at the Berlin Film Festival. Yeah. And I mean, for example, one film, not by An Hui this time, but by Alan Chung, that was on German television that I saw over and over again, was Man on the Brink. And that's really an important film for me. So it's, so it's, I mean, that I'm talking about a circle of friends of mine, but if I look around, there are very few people I know who were not in one way or another strongly influenced by the Hong Kong New Wave. This is something important for us.
Wow. German television is great.
It was great. It sucks badly now, but it was once an extraordinary force.
It sounds extraordinary. If you can always have all these, films from around the world, that's amazing to have that kind of television.
That's 30, 40 years ago. It doesn't happen like that anymore, sad to say. But yeah, that was very nice back then, no doubt.
But maybe you should invite Director Man to do a Q&A again for your festival going forward with your audience.
Yes, of course. I mean, he will also very soon get the invitation for that. So, Director Man, be ready. We will meet again.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Olaf. Thank you for your inputs. I guess we have more questions actually. Last
question.
Last question. Okay. Last question. Let me see. Alexei Hampson has a question. Keep Rolling being your directorial debut. Has the experience inspired you to direct more in the future, or will you go back into art and costume direction? Going on from this, what projects have you got lined up for the future?
我當然有興趣去做documentary 啦，或者其他即係 directing 嘅嘢，但係譬如呢個 documentary 其實我已經嘥咗成4年，前後成4年幾時間，咁同埋其實做 documentary 係完全揾唔到錢，我其實仲要 invest 自己啲錢嚟做呢件事，咁所以我仍然要靠art direction， 即係我原本嘅工作去賺取我嘅 living， 然之後先至可以投入更多嘅創作啦。但係暫時嚟講，我未有下一個 director 嘅計劃，但係我希望喺可見將來係可以有。
So of course he's interested in more projects as a director going forward, but it's quite time consuming. So for Keep Rolling, it's taking 4 years of his time to make this and then have this completed. And also he himself invested a lot for financially, emotionally, time-wise into this project. It's not sustainable in a way, even though it's such a meaningful project. And going forward, he will have to continue to do his job, as a director, a production designer, costume designer, in order to make a living, and perhaps so that he can try to start other projects in that way, but it's not going to be the main main thing for now. So that's the answer, I guess.
Thank you.
Olaf, do you think we can try to do like a Blu-ray together?
I'm open for any kind of madness.
We should talk afterwards. Maybe we should. I think this is a documentary. You know, as a film itself, it should really be documented, and physical Blu-ray need to be done, because you know, in the future when the festivals are finished, how can you see this film again? And it should be a collectible item, you know, on the shelf of all the cinephile that they can go back to. I think maybe we can talk about it. We can join forces on this.
Well, I'm quite certain that there are actually already quite a few labels lining up to do that.
Really?
To do that, I'm quite certain.
That's great.
Because, as I said, I mean, who doesn't love An Hui?
I know, who doesn't? Who doesn't? On that note, I think we're coming to an end now. Thank you very much, Director Man, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Olaf, for your guest input. I wish you all the best for your screening at Rotterdam. I'm sure will be really good and very, very well received. And for those who haven't seen the film in the UK and Ireland, you can go to www.chinesefilm.uk. You can watch the film online until May the 12th. That's all from us for now. Stay safe and have a very good weekend.
Bye-bye.